What's up, guys? Good morning. Happy Victory Monday. Seahawks got a nice little win yesterday, so I think we're all feeling mostly pretty good. Team is at the top of the division. Team is doing things. They're doing more than what a lot of people, myself included, thought they would be able to do this year so far. And cool things are happening. And this video, as of right now, I don't know any more about Metcalf. I'm just going to say that right now. So as far as I know, the Metcalf stuff is still up in the air. People heard some encouraging stuff yesterday as that game went on, and when the game ended, I know his initial x-rays came back negative, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's okay. So just remember, ligament stuff would not necessarily show up on an x-ray. So we're going to have to see. I'm hoping the news is good. But while we're waiting on that, let's talk about something else cool that has developed with this team in the last, I'd say, day or so. Because now we can seriously have a conversation about not just Defensive Rookie of the Year. So something cool happened yesterday, and it's not this. It's not this. Not the thing you see on the screen, to be clear. I really like Breece Hall, one of my favorite players in this draft. There's nothing cool about him tearing his ACL. So it looks like that is indeed what has happened to the standout Jets rookie running back. And a lot of people will remember that during the draft, Breece Hall and Ken Walker were kind of 1A and 1B for best running back in the draft. So now that Breece Hall is going to be missing the rest of the season almost certainly, as of right now, that seems to be the only logical assumption that one could make. We'll see if we get different word later, but it looks bad. And you take a look at what the other rookies in the NFL are doing on the offensive side of the ball. The pathway is kind of clearing for Ken Walker to pull off the potential sweep of the Rookie of the Year awards. It has happened before. It happened with the Saints a few years ago when they had, I think, Lattimore and Kamara. So it's happened fairly recently. But it would be pretty cool. It would be a pretty big positive sign of things to come for this team over the next several years if they would have the offensive and defensive Rookie of the Year. And when you take a look at the way things are shaking out for the offensive rookies in the league this year, I think we got to put it on the table here. So with what he did yesterday combined with what we can reasonably assume he is going to do for the rest of the season, which is probably a lot more than what he's already done. Let's see. So Ken Walker, through 6 games, remember he missed 1 game, has 411 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. He's caught some passes, only 27 yards, not a lot. It's not a lot of good opportunities for him, but so you're talking about 440 yards of offense and 4 touchdowns so far, roughly. Now, when we're talking about Offensive Rookie of the Year, let's understand something here. Here's a list, starting with the most recent year and going back of the Rookie of the Year. What positions did these players play? Wide receiver, quarterback, running back, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, running back, quarterback, duh. Okay, you guys get what I'm trying to portray here? You have to go all the way back to 1963 to find a year where the winning player was not either a quarterback, running back, or wide receiver. So, offensive linemen, don't worry about them. They can be great, they can be awesome, they may deserve to win Rookie of the Year, but it doesn't happen. Clearly, it hasn't happened once. You're telling me that in the history of the NFL, going back to the 1950s, there was never an offensive lineman in the last 60-plus years who deserved to win Rookie of the Year? It definitely happened, and they just got overlooked because they wanted to give it to a guy who actually accrued box score stats, like a quarterback, running back, or receiver. So understanding that it has to go to one of those 3 positions, you narrow it down a little bit more. No quarterback is going to win it this year. Who are the rookie quarterbacks? Honestly, the only guy with any kind of chance is Bailey Zapp. Pickett so far has been terrible. Malik is not playing. Corral's out for the year. Ritter's stuck behind Mariota, and the way Mariota's playing, that may not change for a while. Carson Strong's not on a team. That was my guy, but he's still not on a team. Bailey Zappi is the guy who might actually have a chance to make a push, and he'll probably lose his job and not get it back whenever Mac Jones is ready to go, which might be tonight. Not sure, but either way, probably not going to be a quarterback. So you've got running backs and you've got wide receivers. So starting with running back real quick, obviously the big gun was Breece Hall. He was the guy who was likely going to have the big statistical year that got him Rookie of the Year. Now he's gone. You have a couple other running backs who are doing a little bit of work, but they're mostly backups. They're mostly guys who only come in a little bit, like James Cook. Hasn't really done that much yet. He's got like 100 yards on the year. One or two other guys that are interesting, but really there's one guy. The one guy who is really going to compete with Ken Walker over the next 10 games is Dameon Pierce of the Houston Texans. He already has 500 rushing yards on the year, 3 touchdowns. He's been pretty good as a receiver too. He's got almost 600 yards from scrimmage and 3 touchdowns. So Dameon Pierce is going to be the guy who is most likely going to be in that horse race for Offensive Rookie of the Year as the season goes on. Now, Kenneth Walker's on a better team, right? Dameon Pierce is on the Texans, and they're one of the teams that is, they're not tanking, but they are kind of laying back and letting whatever's going to happen. So they are probably going to be, looking at it, they look like a 2 or 3 win team this year. So that probably doesn't help. His stats will be viewed as somewhat empty compared to a guy like Ken Walker, who is currently running effectively for a good team. And even if at the end of the year, if we're an 8-win team and we're not good, we're still going to be a lot better than Houston. And the thing to think about with Dameon Pierce is that he's been fairly well utilized in every game this year, except maybe the first one. You can see that in every other game, he's gotten the ball at least 16 times, usually 20 times, maybe even pushing up past 25. He's gotten the ball a lot in every game except for the Week 1 game. Whereas with Ken Walker, we know that he didn't even play in Week 1, and his workload was very light until you got to the Saints game when Penny got hurt. So his season should be going, up. His season should be going way up from this point on, simply because he's actually the featured back. And we know we're going to get Travis Homer back. We know that we might see someone else get brought in if we need to, like an Alex Collins. He's still probably going to see the ball 15 to 20 times a game at least, because he's the starting running back. Especially if this team has injury worries concerning Lockett, and maybe they're missing Metcalf. It's just going to make them want to run the ball a little bit more. So Ken Walker's usage is going to go up. Dameon Pierce's usage is already pretty high. So if Ken Walker can make up that ground to get to where Pierce is and then pass him, I don't see any other running backs this year that could threaten these two guys for most production. As for wide receiver, there are some really good wide receivers in this class. There's Garrett Wilson on the Jets. There's Drake London on the Falcons. Alec Pierce has been nice. George Pickens has come on nicely. But there's one receiver who is clearly head and shoulders above them all. Chris Olave has only played in 6 games. He missed one because of an injury. But he's put up nearly 500 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's been a big play threat. He's made a lot of catches in his 6 games. He's averaging over 5 catches a game. We saw him make a big play against us before he got concussed. He's one of the better receivers in the entire NFL right now overall, I think. If you look at the way these stats project out, if he played a full season, even if you take away the one game he's already played, you're looking at a guy who's probably going to get about 1,200 yards. Will he get there? Who knows? But if we're projecting things, then he would end up with slightly more yards than Kenneth Walker would offensively, from scrimmage at least. So there are other receivers that can make a push for things by the end of the year. Guys like Garrett Wilson, guys like Drake London, Pickens, Alec Pierce. But Olave is leading the pack right now. And basically, that's your Rookie of the Year race on the offense. Chris Olave with his almost 500 yards in 6 games. Dameon Pierce with his almost 600 yards in 6 games. And Ken Walker with his 400 plus yards in 6 games, but the promise of much more usage going forward because he's now the featured back. So Ken Walker doesn't have to beat out a whole lot to get there. He just needs to keep grinding the way he's been grinding, and the production is going to come. This is a guy who can take advantage of a defense that makes one mistake and just blow to the end zone for a 70-yard touchdown run like he did yesterday against the Chargers, where a lot of running backs, they would probably just get chased down after 20 or 25 yards, but Ken Walker, he just explodes into the open field. Nobody catches him, and what would be a 20 or 25-yard run in the hands of a lot of running backs becomes a 70-yard run. So you're going to see games where it seems like Walker's not doing much, 3 yards, 2 yards, 3 yards, 2 yards, woo, 80-yarder, he's gone. And the numbers all normalize. That's going to make his production look a lot prettier at the end of the year. I think he's doing a lot of hard work to get the yards as well. He's running with power. He's overcoming some deficiencies with our interior offensive line. Damian Lewis is not playing terribly well. We're not getting great guard play. The run blocking from the center position has been bad. And I think people are going to recognize that, and they're going to give him a lot of credit there. So add it all up. You add it all up. Ken Walker, as of right now, has 2 competitors for Offensive Rookie of the Year. If he can take his production up along with his added usage, he's good. So what I'm trying to say is, yeah, I think it's on the table. I think it can happen. And I'm excited. It bodes very well for the future when you have 2 guys in the race like this. All right, I will see you guys later. We'll talk more about the Metcalf stuff later. We'll talk about the snap counts later. Go Hawks. Good Victory Monday.